It's 2:45 a.m. The night is still, but the sound of metal doors slamming echoes across the miles of land that make up the Louisiana State Penitentiary, also known as Angola Prison. This is where the most dangerous criminals are locked away, and where the line between life and death is often blurred. In a cramped cell, inmate number 487392, let's call him Jake, feels his stomach growl. The promise of a meal is all he's been thinking about for hours. The last time he ate was nearly 24 hours ago, and it was a meal he wouldn't dare describe to a free man. But that's prison life at Angola, a brutal reminder that even in the darkest of places, survival means something different than the world outside. Suddenly, the clanging sound of footsteps grows louder. Guards are on the move, and something's happening on the yard. It's not just any ordinary shift change. This is something else. Jake's cell door slides open, and he's shoved into the chaos. He doesn't know what's coming, but in a place like Angola, when you hear commotion, you can't ignore it. And that's when it hits him. Something big is about to happen. But will it be something that will change everything or make things much worse? The land of lost souls. The year is 2023, and the Louisiana State Penitentiary, more commonly known as Angola Prison, is home to one of the largest populations of inmates in the United States. Built on the site of a former plantation, Angola stretches across a sprawling 18,000 acres of rural Louisiana. Its eerie, desolate landscape is filled with watchtowers, endless fences of barbed wire, and miles of hard concrete pathways that crisscross the prison yard. As the sun sets, the prison becomes an even more daunting place, silent except for the distant hum of security lights flickering on. The prison is often referred to as a farm because it is the only prison in the U.S. where inmates work on agricultural fields as part of their daily routine. The irony is inescapable. A prison built on land where slaves once toiled in the same fields, now home to thousands of men serving sentences for crimes ranging from petty theft to brutal murder. Over 6,000 men live behind its high walls, and it's rare for any of them to leave. Angola's reputation as the largest, most dangerous prison in America is earned not only by its size, but also by its extreme conditions. It is a place of brutality, a place where the value of a life is measured in sweat and blood. Jake, an inmate in Angola, knows all of this too well. He was sentenced here 6 years ago for a crime that had haunted his family since the day it happened. Now at 32, Jake has come to know Angola as a place where survival isn't just about physical strength. It's about resilience, about mentally surviving a place designed to break you. Jake was 26 when he was first sent to Angola, a young man with a life sentence without the possibility of parole. He had hoped that prison would be a place of reflection, that time away from the outside world would give him a chance to make sense of the decisions that led him here. But what he quickly realized was that Angola had no time for reflection. Time in Angola moves in one direction, toward more suffering. The guards here aren't interested in redemption or rehabilitation. They're here to maintain order, and order means punishment. Each day begins at 5 a.m. when the loud blare of the prison horn echoes through the complex, signaling that it's time to rise. The inmates have just a few minutes to get dressed in their standard-issued orange jumpsuits and line up for their work assignments. The work doesn't stop until 6 p.m., and the tasks range from cleaning the cell blocks, to working the prison's industrial areas, to toiling in the cotton fields. But Jake's assigned job is in the fields, growing the food that will feed the prison population. Life in Angola is ruled by a brutal, unspoken hierarchy. The guards have their own order to maintain, but the real power inside the walls belongs to the inmates. Gangs run the prison. Some are small and discreet. Others are massive, controlling everything from illicit drugs to black market prison-made goods. For the new inmates, survival in Angola often means aligning with a gang or risk becoming a target. But Jake, much to his advantage, has stayed out of the gang wars. He's kept to himself, focusing on his own survival, doing his work, and trying to stay unnoticed. But that's not always possible. As Jake heads to the cotton fields under the scorching Louisiana sun, he notices a group of inmates whispering in the distance. The guards are looking the other way, so they're free to talk for a few moments. Jake, curious but careful, edges closer to hear what's going on. One of the inmates, an older man with graying hair and a wiry frame, is talking about the most infamous prisoner in Angola, Tony. Everyone knows Tony. He's not just a gang leader. He's a legend. Tony's been in Angola for years, running operations with a ruthless grip. No one challenges him. If you do, you disappear. But tonight, something's different. The old man's voice is shaking as he speaks. They say Tony's planning something big. The man whispers. He's been talking to the guards, to the staff. Something's coming. Jake listens, his heart beating faster. The rumors spread quickly in Angola, but this one is different. The possibility of Tony, the most feared man in Angola, being involved in anything that challenges the prison's routine is unimaginable. Jake knows the world he's living in isn't one where you just make plans and follow them through. Everything is under the watchful eyes of the guards. But there's something unsettling about the way the old man spoke. Jake knows he can't ignore it. Suddenly, the loud bang of a guard's baton hitting the concrete floor breaks Jake's focus. The inmates scramble back to their tasks. The guards patrol the field, eyes scanning for any sign of disobedience. But Jake can't shake the thought of Tony and whatever he's planning. The day drags on in the oppressive heat. By the time Jake finishes in the field, he's exhausted. But the sight of the mess hall waiting for him is enough to push him forward. It's another meal, another reminder of the system designed to break them all. The food in Angola isn't fit for a dog, let alone a man. But it's all they have. Jake takes his tray, slightly chipped and stained, and heads to the line. As he sits down, he can hear the murmurs of the inmates around him, still whispering about Tony's plans. Some say he's plotting a breakout. Others say he's planning an uprising, but all agree that things are about to get worse. Jake doesn't know what to believe. What he does know is that when someone like Tony gets involved in something, it's not a matter of if, but when. Things will explode. Jake stares down his food. It looks like slop, gray, lumpy mashed potatoes with a side of watery gruel that they call soup. It's tasteless, filling only because it's meant to be. This is what they survive on. This is what Angola feeds its prisoners. Nothing more than enough to keep them alive for another day. But Jake's thoughts are far from the food in front of him. His mind is racing. His eyes dart to the guards standing at the door. They're watching everything, like they always do. But something feels off tonight. A shift in the air, a tension building up as the stories about Tony grow louder. The rumors are everywhere. But Jake is caught between two truths. One, he's a prisoner with no choice but to survive, and two, the chaos inside these walls is something he might not be able to escape from. Suddenly, the guards call for a lockdown. It's happening. Something's going down. The Hunger Games. The lockdown is swift. The air, once filled with the faint hum of conversation and the clinking of trays, now grows eerily quiet. The usual sounds of the mess hall, the scraping of trays against tables and the murmurs of prisoners, are replaced by the cold, oppressive silence that always accompanies a lockdown. Every inmate in the room freezes, eyes darting nervously to the guards who are now lining up at the exits, making sure no one tries to make a move. Jake's heart races. A lockdown at Angola isn't just about keeping the peace. It's a signal that something major has gone wrong. Something big is happening. But what? What could be so serious that it would make the entire prison shut down for hours? "Stay in your seats," a guard barks, his voice sharp and commanding. Jake can't see his face, but the anger is palpable. He knows that this isn't routine drill. This is different. For a brief moment, there's only the sound of heavy breathing, as every inmate is left wondering what this could mean for them. Some of the men are restless, shifting in their seats, exchanging worried glances. They know the stakes are high inside Angola. But in a moment like this, the unknown is the most dangerous thing of all. Jake looks around the mess hall. There's no sign of panic, but there's a definite sense of unease hanging in the air. Every inmate knows what's at stake when a lockdown is issued. Any misstep could be deadly. And no one here wants to find themselves at the wrong end of a guard's baton. The guards move in synchronized steps, their boots echoing against the hard concrete floors. One of them, a tall officer with a scar running down his cheek, approaches Jake's table. He doesn't say anything, just stares at Jake, his cold eyes scanning the room. There's a familiar tension in the air, the kind that comes when the guards sense something that the prisoners don't. It's a power play, a way to remind everyone that Angola's system is still in control. But Jake knows better than to assume things are normal. For a few moments, the only sound is the soft clinking of metal as some of the inmates shift uncomfortably in their seats. The guards stand in place, their eyes trained on the prisoners. It feels like the calm before the storm, the tense lull before everything explodes. Then, without warning, the sirens begin to wail. The sharp, blaring sound pierces the air, making everyone flinch. It's a signal that things have escalated. Jake feels a cold sweat bead on his forehead. The air grows thick with the realization that something serious is happening. The sirens stop as suddenly as they started, but the damage has been done. Jake knows the reality of what's happening now. An inmate has escaped, or worse, there's an uprising in the making. But what's more disturbing is the quiet. The guards aren't shouting orders. They're waiting for something to happen. And Jake doesn't know if that's a sign of confidence or fear. Suddenly, a booming voice comes over the intercom system, cutting through the silence. The warden's voice, harsh and emotionless, fills the mess hall. This is Warden Mayfield. There's been an incident. All units are on lockdown until further notice. Do not move. Stay in your assigned areas. Anyone caught in violation of this order will be placed in solitary confinement. This is a serious matter. I repeat, a serious matter. Remain calm. Jake's stomach churns. He doesn't know whether to be relieved or even more worried. The warden's voice is steady, but it's clear that the situation is escalating. As the lockdown continues, Jake is left to his thoughts. He knows that this isn't a typical lockdown, and it's not just because of the escape rumors. Tony, Angola's most notorious gang leader, has been plotting something. That's what the old man in the cotton field had whispered about. And now, the pieces are falling into place. Jake tries to piece together the puzzle. Could Tony be behind this? Was this the moment he'd been waiting for? Tony had always been a shadow hanging over the prison. No one dared to challenge him. But Jake had heard the rumors about his plans. The whispers had become louder over the past few weeks. Tony was up to something, and it wasn't just a simple escape. It was something far more dangerous. The lockdown stretches on for hours. The minutes feel like days. The guards remain vigilant, pacing the aisles, their eyes scanning every corner of the mess hall. But despite the guards' best efforts, something is building, a storm on the horizon that will change everything. As the sun sets and the day wears on, the inmates are finally allowed to return to their cells. The tension doesn't ease. If anything, it only intensifies. As Jake walks back to his cell, he feels the weight of the situation bearing down on him. He can't shake the feeling that something monumental is about to happen. Once back in his cell, Jake sits on the edge of the thin mattress, trying to steady his breath. The room feels smaller now, more suffocating than before. He can hear the distant murmur of voices echoing through the corridors. Inmates are talking, but the whispers are different now. They're not just about food or the weather. They're about survival. Jake knows that the next 24 hours will be critical. Something is coming, something that will test everyone in this place. The hunger for power, the desire for control, is rampant inside these walls. And Angola's dark underbelly is about to be exposed. A loud crash echoes down the hall, followed by the distinct sound of boots on concrete. It's the guards, more of them this time. Jake's heartbeat quickens as he strains to hear the footsteps drawing closer. They stop outside his cell, and for a moment, everything goes still. Then, the door to his cell creaks open and a guard steps inside. The man's face is grim. No words are spoken, but the look in the guard's eyes says it all. Jake stands up, his muscles tensing, ready for whatever is coming. "Pack your stuff," the guard says, his voice low. "You're being moved." Jake's stomach twists into knots. This is it, the moment he's been dreading. If they're moving him, it means the situation is escalating. And if they're moving him, he's likely headed for something worse. The guard doesn't wait for an explanation. He steps back, and Jake quickly grabs his belongings. A few worn-out shirts, a pair of socks, and a cracked toothbrush. He shoves them into a bag and follows the guard down the narrow corridor. The sound of his footsteps echoes in the silence, each one reverberating in his chest like a drumbeat. The tension in the air is palpable. Something is going down, and Jake has no idea what role he's going to play in it. But one thing is certain. Life in Angola is about to become a whole lot more dangerous. The unseen enemy. The cold, unforgiving sound of boots scraping against the concrete floor reverberates down the narrow hallway as Jake is escorted deeper into the belly of Angola. The guards walk ahead, their movements steady and calculated. Jake's heart is pounding in his chest, but he forces himself to remain calm. He knows that panic won't help him now. The unknown has always been a part of life here, but tonight it feels like everything is about to change. The lockdown, which started as a murmur of whispers about Tony's potential escape, has turned into something far more sinister. The atmosphere inside the prison is thick with anticipation. Guards are on edge. Inmates are on edge. And Jake, despite his best efforts to stay out of trouble, can't ignore the sense that something big is coming. As Jake walks deeper into the prison complex, he notices the slight tension in the air. The usual clanging of metal doors, the muffled conversations from behind cell bars, the hum of the fluorescent lights, all of it feels like a distant echo. Tonight, there's a new rhythm to the prison, a rhythm that is both unsettling and suffocating. It's as if every single step he takes brings him closer to the epicenter of something catastrophic. The guard doesn't speak as they turn a corner. The silence feels suffocating, but Jake knows better than to break it. He's learned that silence in Angola speaks louder than any words ever could. The prison runs on a strict code, and breaking it, even with something as simple as a question, can have devastating consequences. Finally, the guard stops in front of a large steel door, its surface marked with deep scratches and faded paint. The door is heavy, reinforced with steel bars and a thick lock. The guard taps on the door, a series of rapid knocks, and the door creaks open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Inside, the guard barks, his voice low and clipped. Jake hesitates for a moment, then steps into the room. His eyes quickly adjust to the dim light, and he sees a few familiar faces, other inmates like him who have been pulled from their cells. The room is sparse, furnished only with a few folding chairs and a long, battered metal table. There's a cold air about it, one that makes Jake shiver involuntarily. This isn't a normal holding area. This is something else. He can feel it in his bones. The quiet hum of the lights, the absence of noise. It's as if the world outside has been silenced, leaving only the tense murmur of men who know something is wrong. Jake looks around at the other inmates. They're all staring at him, their faces unreadable. Some of them are older, battle-worn by years in Angola's brutal environment. Others are younger, like Jake, sentenced to life and forgotten by the world. Everyone here is a prisoner, but tonight they all share the same question. Why are we here? A man sitting in the corner, his face obscured by a thick beard and tangled hair, finally speaks. His voice is rough, like gravel scraping against metal. "You know what's happening, don't you?" he asks, his eyes narrowing. Jake shakes his head slowly, his mind racing. He doesn't know. No one does. They're about to break him out. The man continues, his voice low and deliberate. "Tony's making his move. I've been here long enough to know when things are about to go down. And tonight, everything changes." The words hit Jake like a cold slap in the face. He'd heard the rumors, of course. Tony, the leader of the most feared gang in Angola, had been planning something big for weeks. But hearing it from someone in the know makes it all the more real. Jake's stomach churns with unease. If Tony is really making a move, it means there's no going back. The delicate balance that holds the prison together is about to snap. And in Angola, when that happens, the consequences are catastrophic. Before Jake can respond, the door to the room slams open with a loud bang, making everyone jump. A guard steps inside, his face cold and expressionless. "Warden's orders," the guard says, his voice clipped. "All of you, get up. You're being moved." Jake's heart races again. He's been moved once already tonight, and now they're moving him again? What's going on? The fear in the air is palpable, and Jake knows that something big is about to unfold. The inmates slowly rise, their movement hesitant, as if they don't fully believe what's happening. The guard gestures to them to follow, and they begin walking down another long corridor. The walls are covered in graffiti, remnants of the lives that have passed through Angola's gates. Some of it is hopeful, others dark and violent. As they walk, Jake's thoughts race. Tony's plan, whatever it is, seems imminent. The lockdown, the fear, the whispers, everything is building to this moment. But what is Tony really planning? Is he going to break out? Or is this just a distraction to create chaos? The guard leads him through several hallways, each one colder and more sterile than the last. They reach a door at the far end of the building, and the guard taps in a code on a keypad. The door buzzes and clicks open. Inside, the room is small with high ceilings and a single window. Jake looks out through the bars, and for the first time tonight, he sees the full scope of the prison. Beyond the fences, beyond the watchtowers, the sprawling fields stretch out like a forgotten wasteland. This is where we hold the troublemakers, the guard says, as he opens the door to a holding cell. It's where Tony's crew is hiding out. Jake's stomach drops. If Tony's crew is here, then Jake is in the eye of the storm. This is where it's all going to unfold. As the inmates are shoved into the cell, Jake's mind races. He's caught in the middle of something far bigger than he anticipated. Tony isn't just planning a breakout. He's preparing for war. Inside these walls, survival has always been about adapting, about understanding the rules of the game. But now, Jake realizes the game is changing. As the door slams shut behind him, Jake feels the weight of the situation settle on his shoulders. Whatever happens next will decide the fate of everyone inside Angola. The clock is ticking and the storm is coming. Jake just doesn't know if he'll survive it. The reckoning. The cell door slams shut behind Jake with a deafening clang. He stands motionless for a moment, staring at the cold, hard walls of his new confinement. The familiar, oppressive smell of sweat and steel fills his nostrils. But tonight, it feels different. There's a sense of inevitability in the air. He can't shake the feeling that everything inside Angola is about to combust. The guards are on high alert, pacing outside, their boots echoing through the hallways. But there's something else now, something Jake can't quite place. A quiet tension that hangs heavy in the air. It's like a storm on the horizon, just waiting to break. For the first time since arriving in Angola, Jake feels a flicker of fear, not for himself, but for the others. In a place like this, where survival is a daily grind, when a leader like Tony begins to make moves, the chaos becomes something larger than any individual. It becomes an unstoppable force. Tony's plan isn't just about breaking free. It's about shaking the very foundation of Angola itself. Jake's been in this system long enough to know that when someone like Tony begins to challenge the established order, it's never a quiet thing. The guards are ready for violence. But what they don't realize is that the real battle won't be fought on the outside of Angola's walls. It will be fought from within. The silence in the holding cell is unbearable. The other inmates are seated in the corners, their faces drawn with tension. Jake can feel their eyes on him, but he doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. They all know what's coming. They can feel it too. Suddenly, the door opens again. This time, it's not a guard. It's Tony, the man who's been a legend in these halls, a figure who's managed to manipulate everyone from the prison staff to the inmates themselves. And now it seems he's ready to make his move. Tony stands in the doorway, his expression unreadable, but his presence is commanding. He doesn't need to speak to assert control over the room. His mere presence sends a wave of recognition through the inmates. They all know who he is. They all know what he's capable of. For a moment, there's a stifling silence as Tony's eyes scan the room, settling on Jake. He steps forward, his boots clicking against the concrete floor, and Jake's heart skips a beat. This is it, Tony says, his voice low but strong. The time for silence is over. They think they can control us, lock us up, and treat us like animals. But we are not animals. We are men, and we will take back what is ours. The words hang in the air, heavy with power and intent. Jake feels a stirring inside him. He's always been a survivor, always found a way to keep his head down and stay out of trouble. But now, it feels like everything is shifting. Tony's plan, whatever it is, isn't just about escaping Angola. It's about something much bigger. It's about reclaiming power, about forcing the system to recognize them as human beings. Tony looks at Jake, and for the first time, there's a flicker of something in his eyes, Acknowledgement. It's as if he knows that Jake is a player in this game now, that he has no choice but to choose a side. You have a choice, Tony continues, his voice growing stronger. You can stay here, in this cell, waiting for someone to tell you what your life is worth. Or you can join us and be a part of something that will change everything. The words sink into Jake's bones like ice. There's no turning back. If he chooses to follow Tony, everything will change. But the alternative is worse. If he refuses, he becomes a target, a symbol of the old order that will crumble under the weight of the rebellion that's coming. Jake looks at Tony, and in that moment, he understands. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about fighting for something more than just the right to exist. It's about fighting for a future, for a chance to rewrite the rules of the game. But Jake knows this isn't a decision to take lightly. The prison, the guards, the system, they will all fight to maintain control. And Angola's walls, which have kept prisoners locked away for years, will soon become a battleground. Tony steps closer to Jake, his face just inches from his. "What's it going to be?" he asks, his voice like a whisper in the dark. "Are you with us?" Jake stands, his body tense. He takes a deep breath, his mind racing with the weight of the decision before him. He spent years learning how to survive in this hellhole. But tonight, survival means something different. Tonight, survival means choosing which side of history he will stand on. He looks Tony in the eye, and without hesitation, he speaks. "I'm with you." The decision has been made. Jake has chosen his side, but this is just the beginning. The story of Angola is far from over. The rebellion that Tony is planning will shake the very foundation of the prison, and no one inside these walls will come out the same. Will they succeed in breaking the system? Or will the guards, the warden, and the twisted forces that control Angola crush them before they can even begin? One thing is certain. The fight for freedom, for dignity, and for control has only just begun. And Jake? He's no longer just a prisoner. He's a part of something much bigger, a movement that will change the course of Angola's history. But in Angola, survival is never guaranteed. And tomorrow, the storm will hit harder than ever before.